Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Chawanne Burns. Happy Labor Day to everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris gave her first interview ever since her announcement of her campaign. Okay, so she was on CNN. They did probably a hour-long interview. No, no, Chase. They gave her hour-long interview in regards to her stance, her policies, and all this good stuff. But we were only privy because it was edited. We were only privileged to watch that 30-minute, or they said 18 to 30-minute interview. I'm not for sure. I don't know what happened to the rest of the 30 minutes, but it's gone. We don't get to see that information. But in all that, I wanted to say her supporters and her non-supporters are actually left confused because during that interview, she was flip-flopping on her stance on her policies. I guess she's trying to portray herself as a moderate Democrat, and she's really not. We know Kamala Harris is a communist. She is a Marxist. She talks Marxist points. So we're going to discuss that interview. We're going to take a look at those talking points from Kamala Harris, and we'll take a deep dive in that. Also, Chicago. Chicago is suffering a deficit. They came out with their budget for next year, and they're over $1 billion. Where is that money going to come from? We don't know, but Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, he made a statement saying that, these are tough times. We're going to have to do budget cuts, and the money is going to have to come somewhere. And guess who the money is going to come from? He didn't flat out say it's going to come from the residents, but basically they're planning to increase your taxes or try to squeeze some money out the residents somehow. And majority of that $1 billion deficit is coming from illegal immigrants. Okay, so we have to blame these Democrat policies once again for the demise of Chicago, or Chicago's budget deficit. Okay, so we'll take a look at that. And then we got a couple of other things that I want to talk about. You guys stay tuned for another episode. Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. You guys put in the chat. Let me know where you're viewing from. Please put in the chat. Let me know where you're viewing from. I see we have one from the UK. Winnie, thank you for the super chat. I love it. Love to see you. Appreciate. Cannon, you need to be quiet. I appreciate your support. Thank you very much. And actually, Winnie is tuning in from Holland. Tell him to be quiet. Tuning in from Holland. Samuel Matthews, thank you for tuning in. Hello to you. Winnie is saying that she also watched The Criminal, Tiffany Henyard. Yes, Tiffany Henyard is a criminal. We also have anger mismanagement. Anger mismanagement is saying she's not flip-flopping. It was a flat-out lies to get the votes from the undecided. Exactly. She's trying to steal the votes since Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy made the joint, collaboration to collaborate together, and Robert F. Kennedy decided to drop out the race and endorse Donald Trump. Of course, he had some moderates on his that was favoring him, and she's trying to steal some of those voters. Okay, are we surprised? Are we surprised about that? I see we have anger mismanagement is saying they're tuning in from Indiana. Gary, Indiana. We have Chuck C. Landscaping Design. Thank you for tuning in. Ira Tucker, Bear, Delaware. Thank you for tuning in. Stay safe. In from Venezuela, she lets out of the prison and not in UK Holland.
Chase, come sweep the floor, Chase. Both sides.
You're basically saying stay safe in your family. Thank you. Okay, you guys, we're going to get to our first story of the hour. In this first story, we're talking about Chicago $1 billion deficit. This is just a quick report. This was from WGN News reporting on this $1 billion deficit. Like I said, it's funny to me that Chicago mayor, the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, he touts that he has, these experiences. He's for black people because he identify as a black person, but he does everything against, not only towards the black residents, Latino residents. They have a good Italian population in Chicago. They have a pretty significant Asian population in Chicago. Any resident, any legal resident in Chicago, Brandon Johnson seems to find a way how to, I guess, demarginalize them. He always seems to find a way how to, set his residents up for failure. When he touts this, I'm for the people. Are you really for the people? And so far, they spent a whole bunch of money on illegal residents, illegal immigrants. But they're cutting these social services. So this is the report from WGN News.
The $982.4 million shortfall for 2025 is attributed to increasing labor costs, a decrease in revenue from state corporate taxes, higher costs for city employee pensions and personnel expenses, $150 million allocation for ongoing migrant support, and the uncertainty surrounding the $175 million payment for CPS pensions. The Chicago Tribune says Mayor Johnson's administration has not ruled out on raising property taxes or implementing hiring freezes and layoffs to address the imbalance. The mayor and his budget team have not disclosed official details yet on their balancing strategy, but Mayor Johnson indicated their goal is to minimize potential cuts in city services. In a statement, he says, quote, "My administration is committed to finding solutions that balance fiscal responsibility with our obligation to invest in the people of Chicago. Together, we will ensure our budget reflects the values of equity, fairness, and shared prosperity." Now, by mid-October, the mayor must present a budget proposal to City Council. This will be followed by weeks of hearings before a final spending plan is to be voted in November. We are live outside City Hall. Andrea Medina, WGN News.
Thank you, Andrea.
Well, we could tell right now that $150 million to support migrants. And you guys tell me, I don't live in Chicago any longer, but can you tell me, have they built any migrant shelters in Chicago? Have they outfitted any schools? I mean, they were planning to spend $90 million on this grounds that they was leasing to build a possible migrant shelter. And then they said, okay, no, we're going to send them to these closed school buildings. Why do we have closed schools in the area? Because people are moving out because of the affordability of Chicago. They don't have enough, I guess, manpower to man the schools, so they close the schools down. And then on top of that, most of the schools in Chicago are failing. You have to go to one of those charter schools to actually get a decent education. So, I mean, this is a story for another day, but you have continually failing the actual residents of Chicago, Illinois. I want to highlight this report that this guy that I follow on Twitter. His name is William J. Kelly. He's an actual reporter in Chicago. And he says the eye of the storm. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, storm cloud of a nearly $1 billion budget cap is threatening his selfie schedule. New taxes are back on the table despite his campaign promises. Remember when Mayor Brandon Johnson was running, he promised that he will not increase taxes on residential properties. Well, we got to take that off the table now because we got this $1 billion deficit that we got to fill in the gaps. Okay. How did we get here? Chicago financial mess escalated in April 2024 when the city of Chicago approved a $1.32 billion spending spree. And the breakdown of that is $70 million more dollars for immigrants or illegal. We're going to say illegal immigrants, and $1.25 billion for affordable housing. And what you think affordable housing? Do you think that $1.25 million is going for legal residents or legal citizens of the United States or legal citizens of Chicago? Probably not. There is tied into this illegal immigrants because I believe Chicago now have upwards to 50,000 illegal immigrants in their city. That might not seem a lot for Chicago, but it is a lot when they pocket it in these certain neighborhoods, and particularly these black neighborhoods. They're not sending them to the affluent neighborhoods where they high fluting. No, they're in the neighborhoods that you and I are in. Okay. So $1.25 billion on affordable housing and economic opportunities, which, let's be honest, also means migrant housing. I just said that. I didn't even read it. It means migrant housing. Let me change my view. It means migrant housing. It doesn't mean nothing else besides migrant housing. Okay. Let's be honest. Johnson's grand plan includes building the nation's first permanent migrant resettlement in Chicago. When we say somebody's one flown over the cuckoo's nest, I believe Brandon Johnson picture will come up because this guy, he's a socialist. Remember, he taught the idea because they were talking about food deserts. And remember, I had this video came out that some of the Chicago residents were protesting. I believe Walmart was leaving Chicago or, some areas of Chicago. And they were saying, oh, we're going to go to city to protest if, for people not to shop at Walmart. But Walmart did have a DEI plan. And they said, okay, hell no. To the hell with these damn residents. You guys want to rob from us. We can't keep up. So it's not profitable. So we might as well leave. So Brandon Johnson, grand idea, was saying, oh, we should have a government ran foods grocery store. Who does this sound like? Who does Brandon Johnson sound like? Can we say Kamala Harris? This is communistic things. A government running your grocery supplies. So they could tell you, oh, you better vote me in or we gonna cut you off. Does that make any sense? Anyway, well, he touted that idea. That was, I don't know if they're still talking about it, but he put that idea out there. Maybe we need government ran grocery stores. Anyway, Big migrant money spending. Johnson Migrant Services budget is ballooning with additional 85 million, totaling 235 million in favor of healthcare staffing. I don't know, former Mayor Laura Lightfoot, preferred migrant vendor. By July 2024, 433.7 million was spent on migrant care. Veterans can't even get the health care that they need, but they are spending $433 million on health care for illegal immigrants. What's not including? The taxpayers face like 820 million in support for non-citizens from fiscal year of 2023 to 2025, including 478 million for asylum seekers, another 106 million in new state investment, and 182 million in emergency funding. With a $1 billion gap hanging over the city, Johnson scrambling for revenue, and guess what? Taxes are back in play. Well, taxes was always in play. You know, if it's not in play, it's not in play. They're not going to go up. To get lower taxes, you guys, you got to lower what government spending. To get rid of a deficit in any budget, you got to lower your spending. That's the only way. And slowly pay down your debts. But if you can't do that, you always gonna look to see rob Peter to pay Paul type of mentality, and look to see what you could squeeze out your residents. Oh, they keep on voting me in. All I have to do is dangle a carrot stick in front of them and say, oh, we got this reparation bill on the table. You know, we gonna get it passed. And they'll keep on continue to vote you in, raise your taxes, and you always have the hope and dream that they're going to pass this reparation bill. Okay, so you guys put in the chat, let me know what you think. I think Mayor Brandon Johnson, he is a one-term mayor. They need to vote his ass out. And all the other Democrat nut jobs that's in that city, because they're really doing their residents a disservice. Yeah, I said it. All the other nut jobs, they need to go. People are talking about or touting, oh, we need to defund the police and do all this unnecessary things, when not only migrants are being violent or illegal immigrants are being violent towards the residents, but you have residents in some of these areas, residents, you can't even walk down the street. I just read the other day that this young lady was attacked on the L-way, and they, for a phone, of all things, a phone, you're gonna attack me, and I think they stabbed her in the neck. And these were don't demonize the kids. These were these type of individuals wreaking havoc across Chicago. Okay, so I believe Chicago days are numbered. Black folks, Latinos, Hispanics, whatever you want to call yourself, what you identify as, you guys need to get out and vote these people out, because they don't have your best interests at mind. They don't. Can somebody even tell me, did they still, that young lady or that little girl that got shot, did they catch her? The shooter for that little girl, the 7-year-old girl? They was at a birthday party and she was shot in the drive-by? No, they didn't catch none of those. I think it was like 91 people that weekend that got killed. None of those people. They're not talking about, oh, we caught, record-breaking arrests in Chicago. They didn't catch none of those people. But then months later, when Sonia Massey got killed in Springfield, they took to the streets. Terrible death of Sonia Massey. I'm not saying not protest, but why don't you protest when any type of violence happens towards an innocent person? It doesn't matter if it's a person that wears a uniform, any type of violence we need to take to the street. Okay, I'm off my soapbox, you guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I have to get on the soapbox and start ranting and raving, but it's really frustrating to me. Okay, so when I say dangle a carrot stick in front of individuals, over the weekend, there were reparations bill. Remember, we talked about reparations. I'm not against reparations, but I don't like to spend a lot of time on reparations because I think it's a bunch of BS. I really do. I think it's a bunch of BS. These talking points that politicians have, and they want to placate or pull the heartstrings of black folks and say, "Oh yeah, I agree with reparations," and really they don't agree with reparations. My case. Okay, this is my case. California had the reparations bill. They was wanting to put it to the floor. Let me just pull this article up. And they wasn't able to debate. It ended up not even going to the floor. And I believe this was in San Francisco. They started protesting. Okay, this is the California state capital. It says California slavery reparations bill unraveled over Gavin Newsom amendments. The governor's office cited cost pressures during the year in which the state had to trim billions from its budget, according to the state senator who's backed the measure. Let me lay down the groundwork. Okay, last year they did this whole research, and they had a reparations, I guess, committee in the state. Okay, reparations committee in the state in San Francisco, and they came up with the number. That number, cash payment of reparation, that number was $5 million. Okay, so $5 million, and Gavin Newsom got on stage, and some reporter said, "Oh, do you support that reparations bill?" And he backtracked. He was like, "Oh no, $5 million, no, you niggas crazy. You think I'm gonna pay you $5 million?" And I'm laughing because it's very sad, because we have these abolitionists and ADOS people, FBA people, really working hard to fight for reparations to, I guess, pay back the wrongs of black Americans. I'm not like I said, I'm not saying I'm against reparations, but I'm not going to waste my time on reparations because I think it's a bunch of BS when you talk to different politicians. I think they just blowing smoke up your ass. Anyway, so that happened last year. Now, fast forward this year, just last week, they passed a bill to give migrants $150,000 towards purchasing a home. You passed that, and they didn't have no money in the budget. California is broke. We know California is broke. But then 2 weeks later, or a week later, then they said, "Oh, we need to go back to the drawing board." And it says the California state lawmaker is blaming Governor Gavin Newsom for stalling the key slavery reparations bill on the final day of the legislation lesson. I don't think so. I don't think so. This article, or this state lawmaker is lying to the American public, because I followed these reparations people on Twitter, and one of the guys posted up on their account. He was actually on the floor. He was a legislator or whatever, a representative, and he was like, "Oh, why are you blocking me for bringing up the bill?" And he blocked him. And guess who blocked him? Let me see if I can find this. Guess who blocked him? Reparations. It was a Democrat. This guy, Democrats blocked this bill. Except for one of these are members of the California Black Caucus sitting on the reparations bill. Get their accounts and blast them. These are all, most black Democrats, but this guy looks like he's white or whatever. Okay. These people are blocking the bill. I don't know if you guys remember this. Lori D. Wilson, she's a nut job. She's the one who made the legislation or wrote the legislation about taking the kids away because if you deny them care about changing their sex up the age of 5 and up, that's one flown over the cuckoo's nest. When I say Democrats need an overhaul, these are not moderate Democrats that we used to deal with about 15, 20 years ago. These people are really extreme people. So, they putting them on blast. Sabotage, they said California black legislator sabotage the reparation bill in California. These are the members. Look, and he has his kente cloth on, Dr. Corey Johnson, this one guy, Kevin McCarthy. These are all Democrats. And the guy that they was talking about, that was on the floor, he was like, yeah, if you bring up the bill, I'll vote for it. I will vote for it. And this was a Republican saying that. So, we're saying that Democrats have your best interests at heart, and they don't. Okay? Let me just share this with you. This is I guess he's an activist, a reparations activist.
The speaker need to bring the bills up now. These are their bills. They have their names on the bills. They killing their own bills because they scared of the government. Now, listen, they gonna see this and they gonna get mad at us. They killing their own bills, then they gonna get mad at us. They killing their own bills because they scared of the government. Okay? We don't care.
We need to
bring the goddamn bills up now.
The governor needs to understand that the world is watching California, and this is going to have a direct impact on your friend Kamala Harris, who's running for president. This is going to have a direct impact. So pull up the bills now, vote on them, and sign them.
We have to vote.
We've been waiting for over 400 years.
So, and they're telling them, hey, Kamala Harris, we're warning you. California black activists are sending Newsom and Kamala Harris a warning. This is going to have a direct impact on your friend Kamala Harris. Like I said, when I go back to my main talking point, Democrats doesn't have your best interests at mind. These are not moderate Democrats. These are people that's real extremists. We actually need to vote these people out. Okay, they don't have your best interests at heart. They don't. You or your family, because they're anti-family. I guess anti-reparations now. They used to be for reparations. I guess they're anti-reparations. But they don't have your best interests at heart. Cash payment reparations, I don't know. I believe you need to go to the source. I think Africa needs to pay some reparations. Come on now. If we're talking about American, we're talking about slavery. I think the government, yes, African government, those that was on that coastline, whoever participate in the slave trade, they all need to pay reparations. But how do you quantify that, and how do you dissect, and how do you get your money back? I don't know. Were you directly affected from slavery? Maybe not. I'm not for sure, but I don't know anybody. Now, if you talk about my father is close to 80. He wasn't enslaved or anything like that. But yeah, he experienced some extreme racism in his day. But he's a world traveler too. So nothing ever held him back. My father is a musician, a world-renowned musician, and he's been inducted in the Hall of Fame. So I'm pretty sure he experienced racism, but should he get payment for reparation? Probably so. He should get direct payment for reparations. Me, on the other hand, I've had a good life, even though my life hasn't been, my childhood wasn't like a silver spoon, but I survived, and I believe I have a great life now. If you want to give me reparations, I'll take the land over the money. Tell you the truth. Anyway, that's my own personal opinion. Let me get to some of your comments, okay? Winnie, Brandon Johnson, Chicago, and the governor are criminals. Yes, they are. Lexi, how are you doing? F your feelings. 50,000 is a lot. ESP is just a few neighborhoods. Exactly. Tom Wilson, tuning in from Germany. Thank you for tuning in. F your feelings says, all just to get illegals to vote. Shaking my head. And don't be surprised, you guys. We're going to see some people, and it's coming out that some people are trying to legalize the voter ID, since they're saying you have to have voter ID to vote. They're trying to legalize illegal immigrants to receive an ID, so they could certify their vote. Ice Dragon is saying 4 people shot on the CTA just this morning. This is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Nearly every country in Illinois or county in Illinois is red. Overall, it's a red state. However, Chicago always vote blue, so it turns out the state is a Democrat. Yes, and we gone to see if Chicago can all get on code this year, Trump 2024. Hopefully they'll come out that blue state of mind. But I have people in Chicago, like one of my cousins, she's an extreme Kamala Harris supporter, and so you do have people still supporting Kamala Harris. Winnie is saying, terrible with the Trader Newsom. My family living there, North California, and Carson, Grovenville, Arizona, all Trump voters. Good. Indigo, I'm a Native American. We don't want anything from the government. Jonah Black is saying, LOL, when Kamala wins, I'm going to go on a troll tour. Yeah, if Kamala wins, if you're a Kamala supporter, you have every right to troll people. But I don't think if Kamala wins, it's going to be fair. Then I really will believe the elections were rigged. Because when we take a look at this interview, you got to be blown away to actually vote for Kamala Harris. Something really has to be wrong with you if you vote for Kamala Harris. Take the blackness per se out of Kamala Harris' face. And she was just a regular white person, a regular white woman. If she was Hillary Clinton, black folks would eat her ass up. They would eat her ass alive. They'd be like, no, hell no, I'm not voting for her. But since Kamala Harris has this black token, I guess, on her face, she talk about cooking greens, so I guess that she's down for the culture. She's an AKA ski. She's down for the culture. Okay. Even the promise of a free turkey would have worked to get votes in the recent past. Kamala is a Marxist. Yes, she is. There are powerful forces behind Kamala could win, but of course not fairly. I believe Kamala can win, but I don't think it would be a free and fair election. Okay, so let's talk about Kamala since we're on. I'm about to call her Commie Kamala. Since we talking about Commie Kamala. Commie Kamala, she had her days filled with interviews. Okay. Her days was filled with interviews, and she had her first interview. She had her first interview with CNN, and it was not a good look. Was not a good look for Kamala Harris, only because Kamala Harris was so wishy-washy on her talking points from the interview to what she presented as her policies. You remember I told you last week, you got to know a friend of a friend to find her policies, but her policies that she's touting it's a stark difference. It's a night and day. And I would like to question, I don't know if Kamala Harris truly believes in what she's running on. Does she have conviction of what she's running on? Or is she just saying anything to get your vote? And reason why I'm saying this is because you're so wishy-washy on things. Now, you may not like Donald Trump, but you could say Donald Trump, he's been the same person from day one. He hasn't really changed his mind on anything. We could say he changed his mind on the abortion stance, where he believed that it should be a few weeks after 6 weeks. He didn't give us a number. So he does believe there is some reasoning for abortion. But that's the only point that we could say, oh, he's wishy-washy. Anything else, he's pretty, straightforward. You know where he stands on certain views. Now, this is Kamala.
Down with me and bringing the bus. Bus tour is well underway here in Georgia. You have less time to make your case to voters than any candidate in modern American history. The voters are really eager to hear what your plans are. If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward, in a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation, and I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
So what would you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of things on day one.
What about you?
Well, I'm excited about this agenda, too. As I said, the idea of inspiring America to what can be. And I think many of these things that the Vice President's proposing are things that we share in values. And the child tax credit is one we know that reduces childhood poverty by a third. We did it in Minnesota to have a federal partner in this. Unbelievable, I think, in the impact that we can make.
You talked about, you call it the opportunity economy. You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive. Housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Llegaron los
Yeah, you can. While the commercial break is on, she talked about strengthening the middle class, and this is why I said she's walking back on her policies. Okay, affordable housing, and building. I believe she said $300 million worth of housing or whatever she said in one of her things. That doesn't strengthen the middle class. That strengthens the poor. Give me a damn job. Give me a job that's making fair wage. That strengthens the middle class. Another thing, you're investing into opportunity small businesses. That wasn't part of your plan. So I'm not for sure if she just, like I said, she's pulling on some stuff and say, oh, yeah, that's pretty moderate. Let's see if we could get small business owners to believe in us. But where is this stuff written? And I don't know. She's just pulling out of her ass and say, oh, that sounds good. Or somebody told her, make sure you talk about these talking points. It really doesn't make any sense to me.
Hazle espacio a lo nuevo este Labor Day con The Home Depot.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it, which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging. What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years. What we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
And now, like I said, you're backtracking on what you're saying. Okay, let's get the monkey or the elephant out of the room. 10 out of the, or 12 years, Democrats have had the power, or 8 years out of the 12 years, Democrats have had the power. And 4 of which you was part of the administration, the other 8 or other 4, your boss was part of that administration. So we could say, oh, Donald Trump, he mismanagement of COVID. How can you mismanage an epidemic? I don't know. Especially if nobody knows what's going on. How can you mismanage that? I'm not for sure. Of course, so jobs is going to be lost. If you have a fire and the fire is wild, okay, how do you manage it? You manage it the best way you can. So we could say that's not really a reflection of how Donald Trump managed the economy or managed the U.S. in his presidency. That was a one-off anomaly. COVID, and I'm speaking specifically of COVID. Okay, so, and then you said we had 10 million jobs that were lost. Okay, yeah, because of COVID. That's a true statement. But then you said, oh, we added 10 million jobs or 14 million jobs to the economy. Well, no, you're just backwalking of what the economy once was when Donald Trump was in office. Because let's be clear, COVID, some people say is a pandemic. That wasn't part of Donald Trump's plan. That wasn't part of anybody's plan. Okay? So you're talking about COVID numbers, which has nothing to do with the actual economy when Donald Trump was in office. Then another thing I want to point out on her, I guess this $25,000 money that she was supposed to be given to new time home buyers. Now, you're backtracking to what you're saying. First, you was going to give people money, $25,000. Now it's a tax credit. So I actually still have to have a down payment, which is a big issue with people trying to afford the home. Okay, we want the $25,000 if the inflation decrease and the home rates decrease. Okay, that $25,000 will actually help a person buy a home. But now you're saying it's going to be a tax credit. This is what I'm talking about. So what are you saying? Tax credit is not going to help me if I don't have the cash to buy the home.
I've been vice president for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that. I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down to less than 3%. The work that we have done to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors. Donald Trump said he was going to do a number of things, including allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Never happened. We did it. So now, as I travel in the state of Georgia and around our country, the number of seniors that have benefited, I was in Nevada recently, a grandmother who showed me her receipts. And before we capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month, she was paying hundreds of dollars, up to thousands of dollars a month for her insulin. She's not doing that anymore.
You maintain Bidenomics is a success.
I maintain that when we do the work of bringing down prescription medication for the American people, including capping the cost of the annual cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000, when we do what we did in the first year of being in office to extend the child tax credit so that we cut child poverty in America by over 50%, when we do what we have done to invest in the American people and bringing manufacturing back to the United States so that we created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, bringing business back to America, what we have done to improve the supply chain so we're not relying on foreign governments to supply American families with their basic.
Is anybody confused about her talking points now? She's touting that they brought manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. No, not with the Green New Energy deal. Right now, you have some automakers threatening to go on strike because they haven't fulfilled their promises. The union hasn't, or the automakers haven't fulfilled their promises to open back up some of these plants. This Green New Energy deal is a killer, you guys. Now, Joe Biden, he believes in fracking, okay? He's not, but if you're trying to get greenhouse gases and emissions down to net zero, you're going to be dependent on some foreign person for your natural resources, which doesn't make any sense when you have plethora of natural resources here that we could tap into. This doesn't sound like Kamala. This sounds like Donald Trump. This sounds like, I mean, if you really listen to it, if you guys listen to what she's talking about, she's not talking like Kamala Harris. She's talking like a moderate.
Basic needs, I'll say that that's good work. There's more to do, but that's good work.
I want to get some clarity on where you stand on some key policy issues. Energy is a big one. When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 20.
So, I mean, I would hate to pull up videos about Kamala Harris talking about banning fracking. And she did. She mentioned that she wants to ban fracking in her campaign. She mentioned she wants to do a gun buyback program. And she's going to say her values haven't changed. Donald Trump just put this video up here, and it talks about, Kamala Harris' history of, what type of policies and, what she actually stand on. And in this interview, she said, my values haven't changed. I'm going to share this with you.
Straws.
I think we should.
70 to
My values have not changed.
reduce red meat specifically.
Yes.
The Boston Marathon bomber, they should be able to vote.
I think we should have that conversation.
Abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes, I'm in favor of banning fracking. I am prepared to pass a Green New Deal. I support a mandatory buyback program. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals. The idea that more police equals more safety, that's just wrong.
Policing, as we know, goes all the way back to slave patrols and that idea of...
You are absolutely right.
Where do you stand on defund the police?
We need to take a look at these budgets.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should.
70 to 80% tax rate.
I think that's fantastic.
Chip in now to the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
How dare we speak Merry Christmas?
Yeah, I am radical. I do believe that we need to get radical about what we are doing.
She Kamala Harris. So I mean, we could go through this interview and say, oh, Kamala Harris, she said, I'm not going to ban fracking. Yeah, but she said my values haven't changed. That's part of your values. You want I guess a world without emissions. And in that emissions world, you have to support the Green New Deal. It's nothing wrong with that. I don't think it's nothing wrong without, standing behind what you believe in. But why are you lying to the people? You just throwing paint on the wall to see if it sticks. You just throwing stuff out there to see who you could catch in your net, and hopefully you could win this election. But it's so disingenuous.
And to do that, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
What made you change that position at the time?
Well, let's be clear. My values have not changed. I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate. And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far. The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation, over probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years, investing in a clean energy economy. What we've already done, creating over 300,000 new clean energy jobs. That tells me, from my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking. In fact, Dana, I cast the tie-breaking vote that actually increased leases for fracking as vice president. So I'm very clear about where I stand.
And was there some policy?
Because the reason why she has to be for fracking is because Joe Biden is for fracking. He did not want, and in her campaign, she said, my president or my Joe Biden has a stance of not to ban fracking. So she's on his ticket, so and that's her boss. So she's gonna do whatever he is saying that he's gonna do. He ran. She's on his ticket, so she got to take up his policies. Just like Tim Walz. Tim Walz has to take up Harris's policies. Whatever she stands on, that's what he has to, talk about. It's not his stance, it's her stance. Anyway, so that happened. That was part one of the interview. This second part, they're talking about the Israel and Hamas war.
Okay. Another issue, big one, is immigration. Mm-hmm. As vice president, you were tasked with addressing the
immigration
root causes of migration in southern countries and
northern part of Central America.
The northern part of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S. Mm-hmm. During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region. The number of immigrants coming from that region has actually reduced since we began that work. But I will say this, that Joe Biden and I, and our administration, worked with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security, which is the border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border. And because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill. A border security bill that would have put 1,500 more agents on the border. And let me tell you something, the Border Patrol endorsed the bill. And I'm sure in large part because they knew they were working around the clock, and 1,500 more agents would help them. That bill would have allowed us to increase seizures of fentanyl. Ask any community in America that has been devastated by fentanyl what passing that bill would have done to address their concern and a pain that they've experienced.
So you would push that legislation again. I just want to ask
Not only push it, I will make sure that it comes to my desk and I would sign it.
Just one other question about something that you said in 2019 when you first ran. There was a debate. You raised your hand when asked whether or not the border should be decriminalized. Do you still believe that?
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced.
So yeah, the border bill was not bipartisan. It was two other Republicans that actually crafted up the bill. So if you could say bipartisan with two other Republicans, I guess. Another thing in the border bill, and we knew it wasn't going to pass because Republicans made it very clear. If you include aid to Ukraine, we're not going to pass that bill. That's number one failure. Number two failure, it had nothing to do with Donald Trump. This allowed 250,000 immigrants per month. That's why they was going to increasing the 1,500 people at the border, because they were going to basically say it was okay to usher in 250,000 people per month at the border. So she's saying bipartisan, and Donald Trump had a key hand in playing. He's not in office. Stop blaming Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not in office. You could say, oh, he's our fearless leader, but they still have to go to work. They still have to be voted. They still have to answer to their constituents. And their constituents is the people that they, whatever area that they're over. So what are you saying? So when we call this bill bipartisan, I think it's a bunch of bull BS. Another thing, you're saying that there's laws at the border and people should follow the laws. Well, over the past 3.5 years, you guys are sitting on your hands and putting, I guess, a bag over your head and say, oh, you can cross the border. You're actually directing the people at the border to ignore the people at the border. Does that make any sense? So what are you talking about, the rule of law? You don't believe in the rule of law. She doesn't. She believes in, hey, if it's going to benefit me, I believe in the rule of law. If it makes me look good, I believe in the rule of law. How can a prosecutor say, oh, I believe in the rule of law, and then on another hand, now you're running for presidency, now you want to say, oh, we need to look into the police force and maybe defund the police? That don't even go together. That's why I said Kamala is a scam. She's a scam.
That address and deal with people who cross our border illegally, and there should be consequence. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations who traffic in guns, drugs, and human beings. I'm the only person in this race who actually served a border state as Attorney General to enforce our laws, and I would enforce our laws as president going forward. I recognize the problem.
Generally speaking, how should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy? Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. We did that with the Inflation Reduction Act. We have set goals for the United States of America and, by extension, the globe around when we should meet certain standards for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, as an example. That value has not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value has not changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed. So,
blah, blah, blah. Your values have not changed, but what are your values? I'm really confused. What are your values now? So, somebody put in a chat, do you know what Kamala values are? Because I'm really confused by this interview. Kamala Harris had ample of time to actually write on the piece of paper, I guess, and tell us what your values are, but now we're just confused of what your values are, because last week you was talking about something else.
So that is the reality of it. In 4 years of being vice president, I'll tell you, one of the aspects to your point is traveling the country extensively. I mean, I'm here in Georgia. I think somebody told me 17 times since I've been vice president in Georgia alone. I believe it is important to build consensus. And it is important to find a common place of understanding of where we can actually solve problems.
On that note, you had a lot of Republican speakers at the convention. Will you appoint a Republican to your cabinet?
Yes, I would.
Anyone in mind?
Would. No one in particular in mind. We got 68 days to go with this election, so I'm not putting the cart before the horse, but I would. I think it's really important. I have spent my career inviting diversity of opinion. I think it's important to have people at the table when some of the most important decisions are being made that have different views, different experiences. And I think it would be to the benefit of the American public to have a member of my cabinet who was a Republican.
I want to ask you about your opponent, Donald Trump.
Okay.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah. Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Let's talk about some foreign policy issues that would be on your plate if you become commander-in-chief. President Biden has tried unsuccessfully to end the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. He's been doing it for months and months, along with you. Would you do anything differently? For example, would you withhold some U.S. weapons shipments to Israel? That's what a lot of people on the progressive left want you to do.
Let me be very clear. I am unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself. And that's not going to change. But let's take a step back. October 7, 1,200 people were massacred. Many young people who were simply attending a music festival. Women were horribly raped. As I said then, I say today, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And we have got to get a deal done. We were in Doha. We have to get a deal done. This war must end. In the meantime, and we must get a deal that is about getting the hostages out. I've met with the families of the American hostages. Let's get the hostages out. Let's get the ceasefire done.
But no change in policy in terms of arms and so forth.
No, we have to get a deal done. Dana, we have to get a deal done. When you look at the significance of this to the families, to the people who are living in that region,
she loved the significance. The significance of passage of time. She loved that word. Like I said, Kamala, she's full of crap. I don't understand how she could just be so wishy-washy and flip-flop on her stance. I don't understand that, and I don't. If I was a Kamala supporter, I will be questioning, okay, who am I electing? Because one day you're talking about we need to decriminalize illegal immigrants and let them vote and all that stuff. No person that crossed the border illegally is a criminal. And then the other hand, now you're saying, oh, we do have laws and we're going to enforce those laws. But what happened the last 3.5 years? No one's been enforcing the laws. We just talked about Venezuelans taking over Colorado, that apartment building, and Aurora, Colorado. So let me reiterate. If I were a supporter of Kamala Harris, if I saw this interview, I would be questioning on whether or not I should vote for her. Because if you're going to be a liberal, be a liberal. Extreme liberal. If you're going to do that, that's, everybody was like, oh, yes, she's a good thing. She's going to give us $25,000 to, buy a house. Now it's a tax credit. And then, what is it? Are you trying to build the middle class, or are you trying to build the middle class? And it's essentially, you're just trying to build a poor class dependent on the government. That's essentially so you guys can have some type of power over people. Bigger government. You can't say Green New Deal and or you support this Green New Deal and then you're saying, oh, we need to do the fracking. It doesn't go hand in hand.
What can we learn from experience? What can we learn from each other?
Governor Walz, the country is just starting to get to know you.
Governor Walz, he did a horrible job too. She specifically asked him about the stolen valor, okay? And then he said, oh, people know me. People trying to get to know me, and then people know me. No, we don't know you. All we know is now that we found out about you, you're kind of nuttier than Kamala Harris. You put tampons in the boys' bathroom. You lied about going to war, and you never served in war. And, thank you for your service for the National Guard, but you never served in war. So you're lying about that. And then you signed a bill saying you're going to protect kids that flee to your state so they could get a sex change when they're minors. And any parents that come across your border, you're going to arrest them.
I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war, did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And
no, you touted it on your campaign trail. You said it repeatedly. It's on your campaign page. It's even on your misspoke about your actual rank in the military, your retired rank in the military, because people called you out for it, you're saying it's a misspoke. Well, how many times do you misspeak? You know, you didn't correct anybody, and you didn't correct yourself. So that's a lie.
My wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's service in any way. I never have, and I never will.
I just one other question, because again, this is all new.
Yeah.
I mean, this was not. However many days ago, this was not on either of your bingo cards, especially yours. You had to clarify that you had said that you and your wife used IVF, but it turned out you used a different kind of fertility in order to have children. And then when you ran for Congress in 2006, your campaign repeatedly made false statements about a 1995 arrest for drunk and reckless driving. What do you say to voters who aren't sure whether they can take you at your word?
Well, I've been very public. I think they can see my students come out, former folks I've served with, and they vouch for me. I certainly own my mistakes when I make them. The one thing I'll tell you is I wished in this country wouldn't have to do this. I spoke about our infertility issues because it's hell, and families know this. And I spoke about the treatments that were available to us that had those beautiful children there. That's quite a contrast in folks that are trying to take those rights away from us. And so I think people know who I am. They know that record. They've seen that. I've taught thousands of students. I've been out there. And I won't apologize for speaking passionately, whether it's guns in schools or protecting of reproductive rights. The contrast could not be clearer between what we're running against. The vice president's position on this has been clear. And I think most Americans get it if you've been through that. I don't think they're cutting hairs on IVF or IUI. I think what they're cutting hairs on is an abortion ban and the ability to be able to deny families the chance to have a beautiful child.
Vice President Harris, you were a very staunch.
Actually, we know they're not trying to ban, now listen up. They're not trying to ban people from getting IVF. And I'm saying they, Republicans. Donald Trump gave a long talk over the weekend saying, hey, they're trying to get insurance to pay for IVF because they know fertility is a very special thing. We do have a fertility problem in the United States. So, one, they're trying to get insurance companies to pay for it, or the government to pay for it, so you can have a baby. They're trying to incentivize more kids being born in the United States of America. So what he's saying is a total lie. That's not what they're not trying to ban. And then literally they're not trying to ban abortions. They're leaving it up to the state. Okay, this is what Donald Trump is saying. He actually is saying that he's going to vote against the Florida ban of the 6 weeks for abortion because he said he believed that you need more weeks to decide whether or not you want to have a baby or not, or if there's some complications, or if you went through some type of traumatic event getting pregnant. So this, what they're trying to say about not having a baby, that's totally untrue. That's totally untrue. I don't think it's a big deal if you say, oh, I received IVF or whatever other type of fertility treatment. I wouldn't even brought that up. Okay, so he received fertility treatment. Maybe because they was trying to politicize the point where Donald Trump is trying to ban IVF, which is totally ridiculous. But anyway, she brought it up.
Defender of President Biden's capacity to serve another 4 years. Right after the debate, you insisted that President Biden is extraordinarily strong. Given where we are now, do you have any regrets about what you told the American people?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have served with President Biden for almost 4 years now, and I'll tell you, it's one of the greatest honors of my career, truly. He cares so deeply about the American people. He is so smart and loyal to the American people. And I have spent hours upon hours with him, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room. He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve in their president. By contrast, the former president has none of that. And so, one, I am so proud to have served as vice president to Joe Biden. And two, I am so proud to be running with Tim Walz for President of the United States and to bring America what I believe the American people deserve, which is a new way forward, and turn the page on the last decade of what I believe has been contrary to where the spirit of our country really lies.
You keep on saying the last decade, and you were empowered for half of that. So what are you saying? The last decade of our spirit. What are you talking about, lady? Why does she keep on saying that?
The last decade, of course, the last 3.5 years has been part of your administration.
I'm talking about an era that started about a decade ago, where there is some suggestion, warped I believe it to be, that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, instead of where I believe most Americans are, which is to believe that the true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up. That's what's at stake as much as any other detail that we could discuss in this election.
Because we haven't had a chance to talk, I'm just curious, staying on President Biden, when he called you and said he was pulling out of the race, what was that like? And did he offer to endorse you right away, or did you ask for it?
It was a Sunday, so here, I'll give you a little too much information.
Go for it. There's no such thing, Madam Vice President.
My family was staying with us, and including my baby nieces, and we had just had pancakes and, Auntie, can I have more bacon? Yes, I'll make you more bacon. And then we were sitting down to do a puzzle. And the phone rang, and it was Joe Biden. And he told me what he had decided to do. And I asked him, are you sure? And he said yes. And that's how I learned about it.
Did anybody believe this story? It was Sunday, and I was making pancakes, and my family was over, and my niece, we was doing a puzzle. No, usually, like, if you're shocked, you be like, yeah, I was taken aback. It came to a surprise. It was a big surprise. You don't start off, it was Sunday, and I was making pancakes. She's full of shit.
And what about the endorsement? Did you ask for it?
He was very clear that he was going to support me.
So when he called to tell you, he said, I'm pulling out of the race and I'm going to support you.
Well, my first thought was not.
He probably never did call her. Biden's handlers called her like, yeah, we pulling out. And she already knew. She already knew because her, Pelosi, and Barack Obama, they all conjured up together and said, hey, if you don't step down, we're going to invoke the 25th Amendment. She already knew what was going on because she had her hands in the pot.
Not about me, to be honest with you. My first thought was about him, to be honest. I think history is going to show a number of things about Joe Biden's presidency. I think history is going to show that in so many ways it was transformative, be it on what we have accomplished around finally investing in America's infrastructure, investing in new economies, in new industries, what we have done to bring our allies back together and have confidence in who we are as America and grow that alliance, what we have done to stand true to our principles, including one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I think history is going to show not only has Joe Biden led an administration that has achieved those extraordinary successes, but the character of the man.
Yeah, you stabbed the man in the back, though. Come on now. She stabbed this man in the back. This is the fracking video.
Adding the United States to the list of countries who have banned this devastating practice.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah.
That was quite clear. So she ended her 2020 presidential run in December 2019. The only debate she participated in 2020 was the general election debate with then Vice President Mike Pence. And I went over the transcript of that debate tonight. Nowhere in there does she make clear that she had abandoned her previous support for a fracking ban. Rather, she repeated that Joe Biden, the head of the Democratic ticket at the time, would himself not ban fracking. So listen to what she actually said in that 2020 debate.
Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking.
So it makes perfect sense that at the time she was speaking on behalf of Biden, the president, not the vice president, sets administration.
But and like I said, it's nothing wrong with saying, hey, this was Joe Biden policies, but going forward in my administration, this is what it is. Not lying and saying, oh, I always stood behind fracking, because you that's not what you believe in. You're lying. Anyway, one more thing about Kamala Harris. Like I said, she had a chance to make her stance in what she believes in and her policies, but I think it was a complete failure on her part, because she was so wishy-washy on her policies. I really don't know what to believe about Kamala Harris. I really don't. It sounds like she's, trying to sound like Donald Trump in some sort of way. Now, she was given a lot of slack about this recent post. Kamala Harris posted this on her Twitter account, or her X account. And she claimed that Donald Trump was trying to politicize the 13 Gold Star families. Now, I mentioned this last week. Donald Trump, last week on the anniversary date of them pulling out of Afghanistan, these 13 soldiers lost their lives because they said it was a debacle. So unfortunately, these 13 soldiers lost their lives when they were trying to pull out of Afghanistan. And they were not the only ones that lost their lives. It was a few hundreds Afghanis that lost their lives, and some other supporting staff. It was another few hundred people that lost their lives, and 13 soldiers. So, of course, they invited him to the cemetery, and then they tried to act like, Kamala Harris is trying to act like, oh, he showed up to the cemetery to politicize, and how disrespectful, and how dare Donald Trump show up to this event. And it's like, no, I was invited here. Okay, so she writes, as vice president, I have had the privilege of visiting Arlington National Cemetery several times. It is solemn place, a place where we come together to honor American heroes who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the service of the nation. It's not a place for politics. I totally agree with your statement. But then she goes to say, and yet, as was reported this week, Donald Trump's team chose to film a video there, resulting in the altercation at the with cemetery staff. This was a total lie. There were no altercations. They told him to come there. They told him to take pictures because he was invited. And yet, let me be clear. The former president disrespected the sacred ground for all for the sake of a political stunt. This is nothing new for Donald Trump. This is a man who we call our fallen service members suckers and losers, and disparage Medal of Honor recipients. And then she keeps on, saying, now, she put this post is no longer available. I'm glad somebody screenshot it. So I guess they took it down. Reason why they took it down. And you guys, you gotta scrub the page, but or scrub her, her ex page. Reason why she took it down, Donald Trump was like, okay, you're trying to say that I'm politicizing this Arlington cemetery visit, but number one, I was invited, and number two, Donald Trump, the 13 families that attended, even he placed the wreath on the unknown soldier, the fallen unknown soldier. They made videos speaking directly to Kamala Harris.
In the Afghanistan exit.
President Harris.
Vice President Harris.
Vice President Harris. My name is Steve Nakui. I'm the father of Lance Corporal Kareem M. Nakui.
My name is Jim McCollum. I am the Gold Star father of United States Marine Corps Lance Corporal Riley McCollum.
This is Mark Schmitz, Gold Star father of Marine Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz.
My name is Darren Hoover, and I'm the Gold Star father of United States Marine Corps Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover.
My daughter-in-law, Sergeant Nicole Leanne G., was killed in the Afghanistan exit at Abbey Gate.
Our kids were murdered because of your administration.
You were not at Dover for the dignified transfer, and no time have you reached out to me to offer your condolences, to offer thank you for Kareem's sacrifice and service. You have 13 families who have been waiting over 3 years to so much as get a phone call, to so much as hear our kids' names said aloud.
You failed for 3 years and 8 months to acknowledge our kids.
Where were you and Joe Biden on August 26, 2024? Nowhere near Arlington Cemetery. You couldn't be bothered to be with us or even say our kids' names, just as you had done for the last 3 years.
Vice President Harris, I ask you, why won't you return a call and explain to us how you call my daughter-in-law's death a success? President Trump has called. President Trump shows up. President Trump takes the time to hear our loved ones' stories.
We invited him to be there.
These are the only memories we get to make with our son, and it is you who is playing politics and trying to detract from our memories made that day.
President Trump has been there for us. He's been a rock for us. He showed compassion for us, and he showed he truly cares for the families that truly do know what the ultimate sacrifice really is.
I mean, video. Now this is a promotional video, but he put on. Let me just.
Vice President.
Yeah, this is his. So video after video, he placed on his, X feed of different families of that 13 Gold Star, of the 13 Gold Star family. Darren Hoover, father of Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover, he put a 5-minute video up. Okay? And he actually tagged, and I guess she didn't take it down because he actually tagged this. I tried to find it, but he actually tagged her post in this video. This particular video had 7 million views. This one had 5 million views. Another woman, Jocelyn Schmidt, mother of Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz, 9.5 million views. This one, Steve Nakui, father of Lance Corporal Kareem M. Nakui, had 5 million views. And each time he tagged Kamala Harris in this video. And these are homemade videos from these basically victims of because of the negligence of our administration. Mark Schmidt, father of Jared Schmidt, had 15 million views. Jim McCollum, father of Lance Corporal Riley McCollum, 7.9 million views. Herman Lopez, father of Corporal Hunter Lopez, 6 million views. Christy Shamblin, mother-in-law of Nicole Green, or Nicole G. This one had 7 million views. You know, a repeat of different families talking to Kamala Harris. They specifically named Kamala Harris in all these videos, saying, how dare you say Donald Trump was trying to politicize him coming to visit the cemetery. And we called you and invited you, and you didn't give us an answer. You said you didn't even show up. And he's the man that showed up. That's very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. So, and I misspoke. I thought she, erased this post, but she didn't. Let me continue to read this post from Kamala Harris. It says, this is a man who is unable to comprehend anything other than service to himself. If there is one thing on which we as Americans can all agree, is that our veteran military families and service members should be honored, never disparaged, and treated with nothing less than our highest respect and gratitude. And it's my belief that someone who cannot meet this simple sacred duty should never again stand behind the seal of the President of the United States. Kamala, it sounds like you're talking to yourself. I will always honor the service and the sacrifice of all Americans' fallen heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of our beloved nation and our cherished freedoms. I mourn them and salute them, and I will never politicize them. It sounds like you're trying to politicize them. And just because she did that and Donald Trump tagged her on all these homemade videos, by the way, this particular post got 90 million views. Kamala Harris, I believe her days are numbered. The polls are not looking good for Kamala Harris. And Dinah, okay, you're saying that Trump set the exit before he left, intention of causing the chaos of incoming in administration. Dinah, I wish you would, really look into what you're saying. Even if he did set the intentions to, exit Afghanistan, you're the current administration. You're not just supposed to say, okay, you haven't changeover. You're not just going to let things happen and it's under your watch. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, we have a shift change. It doesn't make sense. It was under Biden's administration that caused these people to lose their life. And it caused these people to lose their lives, and you're trying to blame somebody that wasn't even in office to lose. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense. And then it happened in August of 2020 or 2021. That was far into Biden's presidency. Or was it August of 26? What are you saying? You have some plans to pull out of a turmoil country, so you don't look at the plans. You don't look to see if what's going on you take office in January and you don't look until August to see what's going on. You just let normal business do, and we just blame Donald Trump. You've been in office for 8 months. So right now you sound crazy. Dana, whatever your name is. You sound really ludicrous. Anyway. And we need to stop blaming Donald Trump for stuff then when he wasn't in office. He wasn't in office. Okay, you could say, he lost 10 million jobs because of COVID. You have the right to say that, but you can't just say, he caused the economy to crash, and you've been in office for 3 years. It sounds ludicrous. You guys sound really crazy when you do that kind of stuff. Blaming Donald Trump for not passing the border bill. He's not even in office. You sound like a crazy person when you do that kind of stuff. No accountability. Anyway. Before I read this post by this lady in the chat, I was going to talk about, before I get off, I'm going to talk about Kamala Harris numbers, her polling numbers. Do I believe the polls? No, I don't. I don't believe the polls right now. I mean, I do, but I don't. But we got to think about these as it's a small subset group that these numbers are coming from. I'm trying to find my one polling place that I always look at, Kamala Harris. Okay, so it's saying, well, this is from, do Americans have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of Kamala Harris? It says on September the 1st, it kind of switched to unfavorable, a plus 0.9 unfavorable. It kind of dropped down from favorable. Does that mean anything? I'm not for sure. I'm not for sure if that means anything. You guys put, okay. Is this it? I was literally just looking at it this morning, and now I can't find it. But what I was getting at, Kamala Harris, she, as far as the battleground states, she is tied with Donald Trump in a couple of states. and it looks like she has a couple point lead in what is this? When was this? Okay, this was conducted last week sometime. Okay, so Kamala Harris is saying that she in Arizona she's up a couple of points, in Georgia, Nevada, and then North Carolina he is leading. Donald Trump is leading. Like I said, I don't know how true this is. And this is Fox. You know, of course, people favor Donald Trump on immigration and border, economy. He has a 8-point lead. Israel and Hamas war, a 8+ lead. But on healthcare, Kamala, and these are the, like they said, the Sun Belt battleground states, so just a few states. Kamala Harris has a 10-point lead on healthcare and abortion. Kamala, since her interview, I think she should have kind of pulled forward like a margin, something, you know, some kind of but I don't think it gave her the boost that it did. Like her interview or the DNC, it didn't give her a big lead that you would expect, and I think that's pretty telling, that Kamala is not doing as well as the Democrats would hope. You know, I hear some people saying, oh, she might drop out. I doubt that. You know, they're going to, you know, ride this train until the wheels fall out and, you know, try to make sure they keep on pushing her in the media like everybody's still excited about her. But since, you know, these polling numbers, it didn't really give her a boost as they expected. You know, they're pretty, this is a pretty tight, if you really want to call it a tight race, it's a pretty tight race. Now, on the other hand, Donald Trump and the Kennedy collaboration, and, you know, Kennedy endorsed Kamala Harris, you would have thought that would have gave Donald Trump a real boost. But according to the polling numbers, it didn't. It just, you know, he's still at where he's at. You know, maybe it tightened it a little bit, but it didn't pull him over Kamala Harris. Do I believe the polling numbers? Not necessarily. Can the polling numbers be, it's really, I guess you could say it's really not accurate, because if you go back to when Hillary Clinton was running against Donald Trump, she was wiping the floor with Donald Trump. She was killing him in the polls. And Donald Trump ended up winning. Donald Trump ended up winning that election. So we can't really believe polling numbers. We can't believe it. Anywho, let me see if I could get to some of your comments if we got that. Okay. Remember in 2020 when poll watchers were kicked out, filed suits, and it was tossed. I don't know what we're talking about. Biden was going to Europe in the next few days and wanted to look like a hero. Backfired big time. Rick said Trump will clean her clock in the debate coming up. She won't have the teleprompter in front of her. Exactly. You're a career politician, and you don't know what your stance are. I'm kind of confused, Kamala. Someone that's been in politics for as long as you have, and then when you did the interview, you flip-flop on what your stance were? I just don't understand. So, like I said, I don't believe she has conviction of what she's running on. I don't even believe that she believes in what she believes in. Now, because now you need notes. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. Unfortunately, the more we try, the more ways they find to cheat. Yeah. I think we just need to make sure there's ways that we know that they're cheating. I think Atlanta in Georgia, what's his name? Governor Kemp. I think he needs to apologize to Donald Trump. There's some apologies that need to be made in regards to 2020 election. And if we actually look at 2020 election, actually Donald Trump should be the actual president. You know, as much cheating that they found in Atlanta, Georgia, or I guess that would be Fulton County, he would have been the actual winner of Georgia, and that would have taken him over the electoral votes. Anyway, you guys let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Tomorrow we'll be talking about some politics, something. So you guys stay tuned, okay? I really appreciate every single last one of you. I am sending all my good to you, and I will talk to you tomorrow.